wrong.
The Oilers in 5.
Yeah, I was wrong.
You're done.
That's shocking. Shocking development here.
Like Survivor, you're off the show. You now have to leave.
Maybe you should have flipped those predictions.
What do you mean?
Panthers in 5.
Oh, wait, whoa, dramatic.
Maybe I should have flipped them. I don't know.
In a few minutes, we'll welcome in Steve Alliquette, analyst for the New York Rangers, MSG, CEO of Clear Sight Analytics. I'm sure he's got wonderful numbers to crunch for us and what they mean. And once again, Skinner either is great or he's given up a ton of goals. We'll get into that a little later. First, let me get your overall feel about not just the Oilers losing, but how they lost. Let's start with you, JB.
Well, I've got 2 thoughts on this. The first is that last year in the Stanley Cup final, the Oilers took it to Florida twice like this, and Florida won the Stanley Cup. So I'm saying it's not a death sentence is the first point I'll make. The second point is this Florida team, the way that we're all holding Connor McDavid in high regard and saying enjoy watching his prime. I think we need to enjoy watching the best playoff team of the past however many years, the decade at least. They are built for this.
I'll go further to you, okay? Like, I'm older than you.
Yeah.
I do remember the Montreal Canadiens in the 70s.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s, it was the Oilers and the Islanders. Your dad's Islanders. Clark's Islanders.
Yep.
I'm not saying that I'm ready to compare this Florida team up against those, but I'd put them up with any other team that has won a Stanley Cup outside of the 3 I just mentioned.
Wow.
Okay?
Hawks?
Yes. Yes, Hawks. Yes, Pittsburgh. My Rangers in 94. Montreal. Like, go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
I am watching a Florida Panther team that could win, I believe, at any time in any era. Now, could they have gone toe-to-toe with Trottier and Bossy's Islanders and Potvins? I don't know. I mean, I'd have to go into a deeper dive, but I don't
think you could ever figure it out.
I love this Florida Panther team because they can beat you so many ways.
Yeah. I remember I've said it on this show too, Brian Burke's thing about, if you play 4 rounds, you're going to have to play 4 different ways, whether it's heavy or fast or skilled or whatever it may be. And they seem to be able to do it any different way. I think, again, I'm not saying that they're unbeatable, but what I am saying is when they're on, when they play their game, it's incredible to watch. Like, this is they have now beat every team they've played in the playoffs by 4 goals in a single game in a series. Like, there's been a game where the other team just can't handle them. They've scored 6+ goals 6 times in the playoffs, 5+, 8 of the last 11 games. 5 goals, 8 of the last 11 games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And their whole thing, GMs are going to watch them and go, we got to be tougher. It's like, no, man.
No,
they're not just tough.
Can I tell you something? That when I think of this Florida Panther team, I don't think about them being tougher than their opponent. I don't think about anything. The number one thing, and I've said this to you before, is they pass the puck better than any team I've seen in the last 20 years. They move the puck. It's not that Sam Bennett's bumping goalies or they trash talk or they find a way to hurt you or they're just tougher. No, they pass the puck better than any team. And I include that Oilers, I include Carolina, I include the Maple Leafs. Nobody, when they're hitting their high note, they move it like the Red Army Russians, man. I'm telling you, they can move it east to west, and they can make direct passes. They can rim it around. They could string 5 passes together before you can blink.
Yeah.
And it is fun to watch.
That Ekblad goal last night where they pass it into the bumper, slip it to him backdoor. It was
Globetrotters.
It was a cherry on top for that game. The fact that they're doing all this on top of being good defensively and being this physical, whatever. I am working on an article right now that'll probably come out tomorrow on what we're talking about here, that when this team is on, like what are GMs going to look at this team and take away from it? And I think a lot of lesser GMs are going to go, whoa, they're physical, they're mean, whatever. I think that's what some teams are going to do. But their best players are 200 feet players. Barkov, Reinhart. These guys, Marchand. Go through the list. They play the whole ice. They're physical. They use each other. It really is. I'm not saying the series is over. I'm saying when that team is on, it is something to behold.
No, what you're saying is when they're on, they are unbeatable.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Last night made me feel a lot better about Game 7. The Leafs.
Yeah.
I'm like, they can do that to the Oilers too, eh? That's enjoyable. I enjoyed that. That makes, as a selfish Leaf fan, it made me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Just to add to your point is that what teams really need to understand when they watch Florida is that, and just to add to your point, that they could start with Barkov and they can work their way down to the fourth line. And the gap between 1 and 4 is as narrow as anything you'll find. Whereas when you go to...
I'd argue 1 and 3.
Okay.
Like Gadjevich, Greer,
No.
Noshik.
Okay, they're not as talented, but that fourth line, they come at you.
Yeah.
Like it's relentless.
Right.
From 1 to 4, the forecheck, the time and space that they take away from you is relentless. It keeps coming. And, we cover the Leafs closer to as close as anybody out there. Yeah. And that's not the Leafs. The drop off between 1, 2, 3, and 4 is significant.
He dropped Kelly Yarncroc onto that Florida team. It's like
last night.
Yeah.
Okay. You go through Oilers 1 to 4, and the drop off was significant by the time you got to Kapanen and Brown, and those guys can come back and play well again.
Yep.
But the gap between the lines last night for Edmonton and the drop off of energy and pushback and all of it, night and day compared to Florida.
We got to get a Valley, but I will say, I have to step in and be the one to say this. Being, $20 million over the cap helps your depth.
And taxes.
No, but the Leafs were, what were they?
Taxes too, Sammy. You're on a roll.
They were barely over the cap, so their worst guys are worse because they're not making as much.
You know what? That's not a bad point.
It's a fair point.
And one worth noting.
But Gary would scream at me if I dare
think they're
bring that
going to
up.
change it. It sounds like the next CBA, there will be some sort of playoff cap. Anyway.
Let's go to Steve Alacat, who can tell us all the numbers on state taxes and overage. And what else? What other issues you have, Sammy?
Well, you know what? May I jump in here, guys? Yeah. They've changed the culture there, and that's why it's attractive. Can I tell you a quick story? It's funny, Sammy, but this wasn't always the case, right? Steve Montador, my best friend growing up, he was about to sign with the Florida Panthers. This is when things were always going sideways in Florida, probably around, I guess, 08, 09-ish. And he turned down a really nice deal. It was something like $3 million times 3 years. And he was going to go to free agency. He went mountain biking in British Columbia, went into a tree, fractured his arm, and then called his agent, "Hey, we'll take that contract." so like,